A critical aspect of failure management in the simulator involves utilizing decision-making tools such as DODAR, FORDEC, or any other model preferred by you or your airline. In this third video of the series, we delve into the details of what we might need to consider during decision-making, providing insights into how it fits into the broader picture, thereby concluding the entire 5-step failure management for the 99%. You can visit the website a320captain.com and download the updated free failure management summary for the 99%, which now includes the summary of DODAR and FORDEC that we will detail in this video briefing. Before we proceed, let's review what was covered in the first two videos. In the first video, we delved into what might be the most significant challenge during your simulator check: stress management. We discussed why practicing an articulated version of the Airbus Golden Rules as a high-level memory item makes sense as a necessary addition to our basic survival responses of fight, flight, or freeze, especially in the 99% of the situations which are not covered by the Airbus memory items. Through this first video, you will grasp some of the terminology I use, such as chimp, Einstein, the 99%, and the golden minute. In the second video, we discussed one way of articulating the Airbus Golden Rules, step 1 in the failure management structure, and stressed the importance of selecting a relevant procedure, step 2. Taking the time to calmly execute these two steps is what I refer to as your SimCheck's golden minute, the moment when you can exhibit your professional maturity and demonstrate your ability to remain competent, diligent, and cool under pressure, precisely when stress might go up and your mental capacity might go exactly down, when you need it the most. By doing so, you demonstrate that you are able to think before plunging into the ECAM or other procedures in step 3. My name is Cristian Mandu. I am an A320 instructor and examiner, a CRM trainer fascinated by human factors in aviation, the science of how people work together to achieve safe, efficient, and effective flight operations. In this video series, I share tips and tricks based on my observations during more than 1,000 hours of training and checking in the A320 sims, aiming to help you understand that during any sim check, the scenario doesn't matter because the failure management is simply the same. Download this free management structure called the 5-step failure management for the 99% at a320captain.com and tailor it in accordance with your company's SOPs. Step 3, 4, and 5 involve applying procedures, conducting a situational awareness update, and running the DODAR and FORDEC. During these phases, your situational awareness and problem-solving decision-making competencies are assessed. And I argue that these are the two fundamental competencies within the training and checking competency framework. Now, you need to employ all your rational capabilities. Only your Einstein brain can manage such complex processes, and you know by now that Einstein works well only if you are able to manage your stress, what we have discussed in video number 1 and 2 in this series. Situational awareness and problem solving and decision making. This is what we are paid for. As pilots, we are paid to make safe decisions, and a good situational awareness provides better chances for making good decisions, whereas poor situational awareness may result in poor decision making. But what does this exactly mean? You've likely heard the term situational awareness many times. Many pilots describe it as knowing what's going on around you, and while that's absolutely correct, it's an incomplete definition. In aviation, there are over 100 definitions of situational awareness, but the most commonly used was coined by a lady called Mika Ensley, a former chief scientist of the United States Air Force. And her definition emphasizes that situational awareness involves not only knowing the current situation is, but also the ability to project it into the future. In simplified terms, situational awareness consists of 3 steps: getting the information, processing it, and projecting the situation into the future. And given that a flight is inherently dynamic, with situation constantly evolving, maintaining situational awareness requires a continuous updating. Rebuilding your situational awareness begins in step 3 of the failure management process, when you address the procedure, for example the ECOM, and gather information about the situation, thereby starting to understand what's going on. In step number 4, the situational awareness update, you need to understand how the current situation will affect you into the future. This is the fundamental projective dimension. But what does this practically mean? Consider this scenario. With a degraded flight control aircraft at cruising altitude in alternate low with an overflowing ECOM, what is that future that concerns you the most? Lunch? Vacation? No. It's where and how you can land the aircraft safely and legally. To assess suitable landing options, you need to consider several factors. To simplify the process, I personally use the TWR acronym, which is easy to remember from tower, but this time it stands for time, weather, and runway. Time. How much time do you have? Well, how much fuel you have? Or you might need to consider eventual fuel penalties. Other situations that can dramatically reduce your time available are unextinguishable fires and smoke. A medical emergency may also pose some time pressure. Weather. What is the minimum RVR that you need to make a safe and legal landing? That's easy. Check your landing capability on your status page. Runway. With a degraded aircraft, what is the minimum runway length you need to make a safe landing? To determine your estimated landing distance required at this stage, there are two possibilities. First, if you already know the suitable airport options around you, you can update the weather and calculate the precise landing distance required with that specific failure. Or secondly, if you haven't yet identified suitable airports, you will need to first estimate a generic landing distance required with that particular failure in order to choose a suitable airport. The first case requires you to be familiar and updated with all the airports along your route, runway lengths, types of approaches, NOTAMs, and weather conditions, so you can simply choose one or more options and use ACARS or Ask ATC for updated weather information to run your landing distance performance calculation and determine your landing distance required with that particular failure. In the second case, you will need to use some generic performance calculation to estimate your LDR before choosing options. If your airline still uses paper QRH, check the in-flight performance chapter and use a conservative braking action. If you are using the Airbus FlightSmart software, you can use a generic airport with some generic conservative weather conditions to estimate your LDR. Once you know that, then you can ask ATC something like, radar, please advise if there is any airport in the vicinity with a long runway, 3000 meters or longer, Cat 1 or better weather conditions, and a serviceable ILS. Asking ATC for better options can be a good idea. I used to run a sim check scenario where the failure happened between Vienna, Budapest, and Bratislava. Pilots were working hard to make timely decisions considering these three airports. However, there was a fourth option, Cavoke, 3,500 meters runway with an ILS approach just across the border in Romania, in Timișoara, but only those pilots who studied the en route airports asked about it. It was in the briefing package. During your situational awareness update, step number 4, you already do a lot of your diagnose or facts gathering. Using summaries to regain your situational awareness is straightforward and highly effective. The cruise phase provides vital information regarding what systems are still operational, helping you understand what's going on around you, what systems are still working, and guides you in calculating your available time, accounting for any penalties, and landing performance, determining the minimum required runway length. The first line of the approach phase reaffirms your landing capability, which you would have already assessed by checking your status page. Furthermore, if time allows, I recommend consulting your FCOM for additional level 2 and 3 information, the small print. Finally, I strongly advise for checking the MEL, especially if you cannot consult with your maintenance colleagues on the ground. Many less obvious scenarios could render your aircraft AOG, and selecting an airport with maintenance available could make a significant operational difference in such cases. Step 5. DODAR or FORDEC. Let's start with the diagnose or facts. When diligently following through step 3 and 4, applying the procedures such as ECOM and adding that projective dimension to restore your situational awareness, you have essentially completed most of your diagnose phase or gathered your facts. Problem refers to issues identified through ECAM or status procedure. It is essential to identify the primary problem. Losing Autopilot 2 may not be a primary problem. It may be a consequence of losing the DC bus 2, and this is the primary problem. All the rest are consequences. Identify the primary problem. Performance pertains to factors like runway conditions and weather. Now, it may be a good moment to consider the assistance required for the next phases like the approach, landing, and after landing. This involves extending your situational awareness, that projective dimension, beyond the flight deck to include coordination with the cabin crew, air traffic control, and ground callings. With a clear plan in mind, effectively assigning tasks or outlining how you want the plan to be executed becomes much simpler. Assistance. Think of how do you want things to happen and how can the other parties help you. Cabin crew. Normal or emergency cabin landing preparation. ATC. Long vectors, vacate or stop on the runway, taxi to the gate, possible emergency evacuation. Maintenance. Will you be AOG after landing? It may seem a lot to think about, but if you approach these events sequentially, visualizing the flight from the present moment until everybody is safe on the ground, it will be much easier for you to see the points that require special attention, and you might need to address them in the special part of the NITS briefing. Once the approach, landing, and post-landing procedures are clear in your mind, it's easier to choose suitable options, assign the tasks, or instruct on the plan execution. Options and risk and benefits. Here is the time to re-articulate your runway performance calculation and the available weather. If you have 3 suitable airports within reach, how do you decide which one? Assuming the weather is CAV-OK everywhere, where would you prioritize? Company base, company destination, or maintenance facilities? Consult your company's guidelines for such scenarios. If you anticipate being grounded after landing, as you have checked your MEL during step 4, your situational awareness update step, it might be wise to choose an airport with maintenance facilities at least. Alternatively, if you can communicate with maintenance via company frequency or ACARS, delegating the decision to them can simplify matters. However, be cautious in how you approach MCC. For instance, let's say your airline's main maintenance base is in Madrid and you at the moment you are flying in between Vienna, Budapest and Bratislava. If you ask MCC, where do you want us to land? They may reply, please come to Madrid, because they don't know how much fuel you have or how the local weather conditions are. Instead, ask them to choose from your options. For example, please advise where would you recommend us to land between Vienna, Budapest or Bratislava. This ensures that MCC can add a final layer of operational consideration to what you have already identified as suitable option. Decide or decision. If the situational awareness update and diagnose facts phases are conducted effectively and the risk and benefits assessment is thorough, the decision should practically emerge from the process. However, if doubt persists or you seek assurance regarding the best decision in that context, try changing the perspective by asking, why would we not choose this or that airport? This approach may help clarify any remaining uncertainties. Is there such thing as a perfect decision during a simulator check? As an examiner, during the scenario part of the check, I evaluate the CRM process of the decision making. It involves pilots working together, utilizing their communication skills, workload management, and leadership and teamwork competencies to build that situational awareness and make decisions. And these are the 5 CRM competencies. During a sim check, decisions often require significant trade-offs between risks and benefits. Landing at a destination in perfect weather conditions with ideal runway conditions and maintenance facilities is unlikely during a sim check. Instead, the decision may involve choosing least unfavorable option, balancing company economic interest with safety considerations. During the assignment of the task or when instructing others on how to execute the plan, a significant amount of time can be gained or lost. From this point onwards, I observe pilots generally underestimating the time they need until they are prepared to commence the final approach. How far are you from your chosen landing destination? verify your position and conduct another fly FCOM. If you are not close to your selected airport, it may be advisable to start heading towards it rather than waiting in a holding pattern until you have completed your revisions, which could result in additional idle time. Can you complete the remainder of your tasks while flying towards your airport? If you are confident to do so, great, go ahead. But hold on, what does it take to be confident in doing so? Well, it means knowing approximately how much time you need to communicate with the ATC, provides a NITS briefing to your cabin crew, and make a PA, prepare and brief for the approach, considering all the associated checklists and procedures, quickly revise everything and discuss a contingency plan. Do you know how long it takes you to do all that? No worries, we will discuss that in the next video, number 4 in this series. We will learn how to learn how much time we need. To maintain simple and effective communication, I utilize NITS format for interactions with ATC, cabin crew and the passengers. Although ATC and passengers may not recognize it as NITS, and they don't have to, it serves us as a simple and structured format for delivering clear messages. I could even use NITS to request a coffee. I would like to ask you for an espresso. Would you be so kind and make it for me, preferably before takeoff if possible, with no sugar and no milk? Thank you. ATC. Provide a NITS message to ATC. Radar, Demo 123, request radar vectors to Vienna for ILS-29. We will be ready for approach in about 10 minutes. This will be a normal landing and we require follow me to the gate. These are all NITS briefings. However, what does ready for approach in 10 minutes exactly mean for the ATC? I asked a controller friend of mine what would that mean to him. He said that he would require more specific information. He said, it really helps if you are clear. If in 10 minutes you are ready to start your final approach, say we need 10 minutes to reach the final approach point. Adjust your message to fit the understanding of your recipient. During your NITS to the ATC, speak ATC language. As a side note, please practice your Maydays and your NITS briefings. You will need your full Einstein resources to pass a calm and clear Mayday and a calm and reassuring NITS. That would be difficult unless you train your chimp to allow Einstein to do the job. Here are 2 examples of Mayday calls.
Fairfield, Iowa, Mayday, 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 9815 Lima, I'm in trouble, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday!
November 9815 Lima, Fort Dodge Radio, go ahead.
I have no idea where I'm going, I'm going to crash, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday!
9815 Lima, say last known position.
I have no idea, Mayday, 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 I'm going to crash!
303 Papa Heavy, do you need any assistance?
Standby, Speedbird 38 Papa Heavy. It's Mayday, 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 Speedbird 38 Papa. We have a engine shutdown. We are continuing to Sparky. It'll be a right turn direct to the Willie, that's the India Whiskey Alpha, climbing 6,000 feet, and we'll take up the hold, the India Whiskey Alpha. We'll let you know further intentions. Standby.
Practice, practice, practice. Record yourself and listen to your message. Does it sound like your Einstein is talking? Does it sound cool under pressure, diligent and competent? If not yet, if it still sounds like your scared chimp is talking, practice until you will Einstein it. Once you can do it at home, you will be able to do it during the sim checks as well. The next one in your list is the senior. The senior cabin attendants are humans and have emotions. If the situation is dire, their stress level may also be high and their mental capacity low, possibly insufficient to process your needs. Once, a newly upgraded young captain needed to divert due to weather conditions below the minimums, fog at destination. According to the company procedures, he was required to give a NITS briefing to the senior. The captain was stressed by the situation. It was the first time he had to divert since the upgrade. The 23-year-old senior had just broken up with her boyfriend the day before and she was not in the best emotional shape to begin with. However, despite being emotionally fragile, she considered herself fit to fly and came to work. The stressed captain called her to the flight deck and without even looking at her told her, "This is a NITS briefing, are you ready to copy?" and gave the NITS briefing in this tone. What do you think the senior told her colleagues when she came out from the flight deck? She said, "We are gonna die." In this situation, the captain's scared chimp talked the NITS briefing to the senior's chimp, and chimps got a different message. How can you prevent such a situation? NITS is a two-Einstein job. Make sure you can talk Einstein to Einstein. If you feel your senior is emotional, make sure you unlock his or her Einstein before attempting to shoot your NITS. Deal with the emotions first. Listen to your senior and make them feel safe. Practice, practice, and practice. Record yourself at home and listen to yourself. Do you sound like Einstein, calm and reassuring? If not, practice it until it sounds like music to your ears. Train your chimp that it's okay to allow Einstein to do this job. Hey, how's the situation in the cabin? Okay, well done, thank you. Now, we have a situation here as well, but everything is under control. And you know, I need to give you a NITS briefing. Are you ready to copy? In your NITS, you may tell your senior 15 minutes until landing. Why would you tell the senior 15 minutes when you told ATC 10 minutes not too long ago? Well, what does time till landing mean in cabin crew language? It means from the present moment until the wheels touch the ground. Adjust your message to fit the understanding of your recipient. During your NITS to cabin crew, speak cabin crew language. Passenger announcement. Do not use technical language and do not lie. Some airlines specifically train their pilots not to use the word problem and instead use situation or we have some abnormal indications. I like that. If you need to go around because you are not stabilized, what are you going to tell the passengers? We could not get stabilized. Well, try something like, due to the landing conditions, we had to discontinue the approach. You are not lying and you are not creating unnecessary stress in the cabin. If possible, do not create additional panic. Consider telling the passengers that you will land in 25 minutes. Why? Because if you say 15, someone may start their chrono, and if you are delayed for some reason, that passengers may get a panic attack. Overestimate the time for the passengers. It's better to land earlier than you told them. FMGS and briefing. I have seen pilots starting their assign phase with preparing the FMS and conducting the briefing in a holding pattern before even advising the ATC of their intentions. If your airline prefers such a structure, follow your company SOPs by all means. However, I believe it makes sense to advise ATC about your intentions first, especially if you need emergency services after landing, to allow sufficient time for them to prepare everything for you. Then advise your senior, especially if you are preparing for an emergency landing. They need time for that. You can consider doing your FMGS preparation and briefing after having assigned the task to ATC and cabin crew, thus using everyone's time more effectively. How you conduct your briefings should be in accordance with your company's SOPs, and therefore I will not give any advice here. I would only point out that at the end of the briefing, both pilots should have a shared understanding of what will be done next, when, and how. Clarify your sequence, visualize the flow sequentially, and clearly articulate your intentions and expectations. Company. It is a nice practice in the simulator to consider informing your airline about your intentions, if not already done so. You can use ACARS, the company frequency, or simply ask the ATC to advise your airline about your situation. Revise or check. This step should answer two simple questions. What did we miss? And are there any new factors? But this is the step that is most often missed during the sim checks. I cannot overemphasize its importance. I had a situation once when managing a complex failure with a diversion in the simulator. We had checked all the procedures, done all the needs, and we thought that we were ready for the approach. During the revision, however, we realized that we hadn't prepared the FMGS. We caught it there and we wondered how could we have skipped this? Well, DODAR or FORDEC is hard work, requiring a lot of mental capacity, and to manage many tasks in a noisy environment. You may be constantly disturbed by ATC calls and communication with the cabin. During a sim check, I will try to make enough noise to distract the pilots. However, I am not able to come anywhere near the level of noise that one may encounter in a real busy airspace, such as the London area, for example. Unless you have a solid failure management structure that you can rely on, it is very possible to overlook important steps. Revise or check is the last moment when you can proactively check and fix what needs to be done. This failure management structure is not fixed, and it is unlikely that you will apply everything in one situation. The benefit of knowing it and practicing it is that it serves as a solid reference in stressful situations. You need a reference to recognize where you are deviating and where to return. In a sense, it is like the international standard atmosphere. While I have never encountered it in real life, we use it every day as a reference to compute our aircraft performance. A robust failure management structure can be valuable for assessing and adjusting your failure management performance in real time. Everything we have discussed so far can be effectively considered in situations where you have time available. However, there are instances that can be time critical, demanding immediate landing and evacuation. In such cases, a different approach to workload management, leadership and teamwork and decision making is imperative. Your failure management structure needs to be focused on the essential items. Unless you identify these critical points and practice your time-critical failure management structure before your sim check, it could result in a high-stress situation with questionable performance. We will delve further into time-critical situations in the next video, where I will share insights into how I prepare for my upgrade and how I continue to practice my failure management structure for both time available and time-critical scenarios. If you find this video helpful, please let me know by liking, subscribing and sharing it. Also, don't forget to visit a320captain.com and download the updated free failure management summary for the 99%, which now includes the summary of DODAR and FORDEC. Thank you for watching, and I wish you many sim checks with no stress and safe flights.